Thank you for joining us today. For those of you that don't know what We Work Well is, we are a buyer-supplier platform, the premier buyer-supplier platform that connects people in hospitality, spa, and wellness on the buyer-supplier side. We started in 2018 with live events, and obviously, or was it 19? I've lost track of time. We had to pivot in 2020 into virtual. At the same time, we expanded from North America into the EMEA market, and we are having this in advance of our second EMEA virtual event at the end of May, and our next EMEA North America event at the beginning of May. We'll put the dates up in the chat after our conversation today. If you're a buyer or supplier that would like to join us and network and learn from the best, we'd love to have you. So part of our platform is education, and that's my role. I'm Lisa Starr. For those of you that don't know me, my company is Win Business, but I am the Grow Well educator for We Work Well, and I'm responsible for inciting thoughtful conversations and content around how we all do business, which right now, needless to say, is there's plenty to talk about, and that is the purpose of our having this chat today. Obviously, EMEA is a massive market when we look at each piece separately. We've got Africa, 1.2 billion people. We've got Europe with 750 million people. And we have the Middle East, just Dubai, just the Emirates is 10 million people, but obviously much smaller. So I have a panelist from each of these regions, and we're going to talk about what we're seeing in those markets. I want you to know that our discussion is not going to center on what do we do about sanitizing and wearing gloves. I think we've all been through that enough. We know that we need to be safe and hygienic. That goes without saying. We always were. So we need to obviously make sure that guests know that we still are. You, of course, need that note on your website about what we're doing to keep you safe. They expect it, and yet they're not really reading it because they know that we are doing things that are safe for them. What we want to talk about today is what is next and what are the opportunities that are presented to us by our current situation. And so I've invited three amazing panelists. In a good sign, I suppose I should say, one of our panelists, after we planned this event and firmed up the times, suddenly had to fly from one country to another. And I said to myself, well, things are getting better. We're not all sitting around our apartments anymore. So Naim Maadad will join us from his hotel when he can arrive. And in the meantime, we're going to get started with my two consulting task force colleagues. I'd like to welcome Wilfried Dreckmann from Spa Project Europe, based in Germany, and Debbie Merdjan, CEO of Camelot Group in South Africa. And they are going to represent the Europe and African markets, respectively. So welcome to both of you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Wilfried and Debbie's CVs are on our website and on the invitations. I will just say that they've both been in the business for a long time. Wilfried has more than 20 years in beauty and spa. He has been a therapist and a manager, and he consults to spas throughout Europe, and he's also a professor at the IST University of Applied Sciences in Dusseldorf. Debbie is the CEO and founder of Camelot Group, 30 years business experience. Camelot is a massive company that encompasses a training academy. They operate 38 spas, some freestanding, some in hotels, a product distribution company. So many, many employees, and she works on projects throughout Africa. So we are very fortunate again to have them both with us. As I said earlier, these markets are very different. And one reason I'm sorry that Naim isn't here to kick us off is because the Middle East is far ahead of Africa and Europe in the terms of recovery. But when Naim can dial in, we'll talk about that. What we want to say and focus on today is what is next for us in the spa, wellness, hospitality industry, and how can we be best positioned to do the most going forward? I've asked Wilfried and Debbie each to just give us a few minutes on their continent and what they see before we dive into the discussion. And as always, your questions are welcome. Just put them in the chat. So I'm going to ask Debbie to go first. Ladies first. Go ahead, Debbie.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for today. So just to give you feedback, our recovery has really been good. I think all things considering how in Africa, the vaccination program is barely started. The numbers are questionable in the country. However, people have really, I think from lockdown, just really craved touch, really needed to get back into the spas for their personal wellness, mental wellness. And our spas really have had a great recovery. It's nothing back to where we were before. But I really believe the COVID time really set us up for making quite a lot of good, valuable changes. So we had opportunity to renegotiate leases, which I think over time had really got out of proportion. It really made us look at staff, performing staff, non-performing staff, looking at how many hours staff were working and actually not bringing in revenue, making adjustments there. And properties that were closed, we had to reshift. There's been opportunities to pick up businesses that were failing and turn them around. So in the middle of COVID, we opened up a new property. I think my financial manager had a heart attack, but I knew it was an amazing opportunity and negotiated a lease. I think we're giving them something like 7% on turnover, which is nothing and had nothing to lose. It was fully furnished and already within, I think, the first 2 weeks of operation, it's been doing incredibly well. So lots of opportunities and lots to change. So I'm excited about the future. I think it's given us an opportunity to look at what we were doing, shift and do it better. People are coming to us because we are tried and trusted brands. So we've got client confidence. So yeah, lots of opportunity going forward.
That's a great way to look at it. Thank you for that summation. Debbie, Wilfried, what could you tell us about Europe in 20 minutes or less? I know how passionate Wilfried is about this. Current situation.
The current situation is really difficult to explain. It is actually a huge rack of rules and regulations throughout Europe. There is not one country which is in the same situation or with the same measurements and regulations than another. And talking about Europe is anyway a difficult situation because we are so different in each and every country. By the way, when talking about Europe, and I'm talking about Europe, I'm not talking about the political construction EU, but about the region. So also about countries like Switzerland and the UK, which is currently in a much better situation than the rest of the European countries. However, if we look at Europe, we can see that most countries, or in most countries, hotels and spas are either still closed, and I was looking at your introduction on the email again, and you wrote that we are emerging from the third lockdown. And I thought, is that really true? I mean, some of us are still in the second lockdown. I know even people who are still in the first lockdown. So, and are we actually emerging from anything? I'm not entirely sure about that. However, we have seen countries who have reopened hotels and spas and then closed them again. And we have currently, Debbie, you know that better than me, in the UK, the situation that said that since about a week, personal care is allowed again. So what I'm hearing from the UK Spa Association, for example, is that business is back to normal, whatever that means, and actually that people are kind of overrunning the spas to get treatments. Hearing from other countries that in some countries, even in the different regions, sometimes even in different cities, there are completely different situations. So in some cities, hotels are open again, but only for business travelers. And in these hotels, you may book, for example, a massage, but you're not allowed to go to a sauna. In the UK, I've just recently read that in some hotels, you may not use the day spa with 2 different households. So it's really complicated. And actually, from my point of view, the spa business, is currently kind of paralyzed. We are sitting there waiting that somebody allows us to come back to business. We have, as you said, Lisa, we have all the hygiene measurements in place. By the way, we always have had that. You said that I worked as a therapist for years. I'm a podologist, and I can't imagine any room in a hotel which is cleaner than a podologist room. I mean, there is nothing more hygienic than spas, as far as I know. There might have been other premises, but those where I was responsible for the management, they were very, very clean. So actually, this is a situation which is not entirely new for the spa business. However, right now, most of the businesses in Europe is just locked down, sitting there, waiting for clients to come, and I have to say, not properly prepared.
All right, let me pick up on that in a moment, but I do want to go off on a small point about something that you said, Wilfried, which is that because there has been enforced lockdown in so many places, we're seeing gray market and black market spas pop up, people doing business behind locked doors. And that was always the case in Russia, that they've had a thriving black market, but now it's spreading, in other parts of Europe, and I'm sure Africa. Debbie, are you seeing any of that?
Well, Africa is not closed down. We're allowed to operate. So there hasn't been a need. Maybe in the initial lockdown, there were some people doing home visits and were happy because they knew the therapist perhaps, but there hasn't been a need for it. And the lockdown period wasn't as long as, for example, Europe.
Right.
So there I can understand there would be more.
Well, people need to make a living, and our consumers want to get their services, especially when it comes to haircuts and manicures. And so I think it's created an unforecasted situation of these places operating kind of behind closed doors and closed blinds. But I hope that they can transition out of that without an issue. I mean, my worry about that is that when you get the client used to a different situation, it's hard to go back if the price has changed or anything like that. But let's assume that goes away and we flash forward to when things reopen. And I say when because we know that they will. If Naim is able to join us, he'll be able to tell you how things are going in Dubai, which is like gangbusters. The spa directors I've spoken to there are having record revenues. They're beating 2019 numbers. So we know that consumers do want to come back, but Debbie made a great point about, well, how can we take advantage of this shift to do things maybe differently for ourselves? I love that you were renegotiating rents. That's obviously great, but what else could change? What other things do we need to change? Who wants to go first and talk about that?
Yeah, I think what we've done is we've noticed that there's a shift to home care, home spa care. So some of the clients who are nervous to come into the spa are wanting to do more things at home. So we've done a shift in our spas in offering more home care, for example, devices that perhaps they could use alongside with. We actually did a rollout of virtual treatments and we created beautiful boxes of varying treatments, but that didn't work. I think we rolled it out too quickly. The African market isn't virtually orientated. In fact, even online sales weren't great. It went up a little bit, but when, for example, and Wilfried will talk more about the European market, there the online sales are incredible. So for us, we've seen the shift with our clients, and so we've changed our offering a bit to encourage home use of just basic things that they could do, like body brushing, perhaps with a peel that they would purchase, a body peel, which they wouldn't have purchased before in the spa. Nutraceuticals, really focusing on internal wellness, obviously the normals that everyone's really tapped into, immunity boosting, mindfulness. People are wanting to get away for retreats, so really offering personalized things where you could book out the spa for just you and maybe your family, close people, to do a treatment session. So really finding ways to offer the client something where they feel safe and comfortable.
Wilfried?
Well, online sales have always been good in nearly all European countries, let's say, especially where I'm living in Germany. We have a huge market, and I think nobody's actually not jumping on this train. However, this is, for me, only a very small part of the business in general. Of course, people are sitting at home and they want their nails done, they want to have their haircut and so on, and this you can't actually buy online. So no. They are, luckily, so they are actually starving for having treatments, having being touched and going back to a spa. And what we saw in summer was amazing. And that's pretty much what you said about what Naim is going to report. People are really, as soon as a spa is open again, people are standing in front of the door, knocking on the door and saying, please, can I have any kind of treatment at any time? However, I presume, or I would even bet to say, and that's a little bit different to what you just said, Lisa, I would bet that spas will still, as soon as they are open, underperform. Because what I'm seeing right now is, and that's not only a German thing, but I've seen that in various countries, I see a kind of let's say brain drain or hands drain, a staff drain, let's say, because people are, up to now, they're receiving their short time allowance and getting some 50, in Spain, for example, 50% after 6 months of lockdown, 50% of their regular salary, which means, which doesn't mean actually any kind of tip or extra money for working on a holiday. So people can't live on that. So what they do, and I fully understand every therapist who is now trying to get another job. I've even seen here in Germany, about 2 months ago, I've seen an ad from a German supermarket chain advertising in a professional hotel magazine jobs for hotel staff, saying that come to us. Working in our supermarket means Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, sometimes on the weekend, and you are free to celebrate Christmas, Easter, and Thanksgiving with your family. I was one of the people who immediately called this newspaper, this magazine, saying, "Are you crazy? I mean, how can you print such an advert, which even makes our situation even worse?" We have had a difficult staff situation before COVID, and we will have an even more difficult situation afterwards, because people will leave the business and it will be really difficult to get them back. So this is something I see as a kind of risk for our business for the near future.
So, great point Wilfried brings up, which is that fortunately we can't do services virtually. The core of what we do, delivering treatments to people, cannot be done through a computer line. So they have to come back, and we have seen that they are happy to do so. But we know that before the pandemic, globally, we did not have enough staff. And I agree that that's going to continue. People will be timid about working in personal care, or they found other jobs that they enjoy and they're not coming back. And yet we have an unprecedented demand for our services and our treatments. And now we need to sort of go forward and address mental wellness, physical wellness. It's not just delivering spa treatments. So let's talk about what else we can do. Like, how do we what does 2022 look like when we are open and we're running and we're taking as many people as we can, but we need to get revenues back to where they were? Is it online sales? Is it retreats? Is it going into other kinds of businesses? I mean, what are our options going forward?
Lisa, I think when tourism gets back to normal, our figures will get back to normal. But if I can look at Africa and look at our properties, if we take away the tourist element, which actually didn't contribute to a huge amount of our business, probably anything from 7 to 15% of turnover, the balance of the recovery has actually been back to normal, literally, and it's been quick. And I'm really happy to say that we've had very few incidences in our properties, of COVID, obviously respecting all the laws, the hygiene, etc. So it's encouraging that we could go back to normal in terms of our treatment offering and not be forced to close, open, close, open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Africa's behind in the vaccination process. So it really intrigues me. I often look and wonder, was it blown out of proportion? I don't know. I really, it's interesting, but I think we bounced back in terms of our offering, and we've done analysis on what treatments people are booking to see, is it any different to what we were doing before? And no, we're doing the same range of treatments, more body massage, facial treatments, spa treatments. Yes, some of our properties, for example, our property in Swaziland, we weren't allowed to offer heat facilities. Now we're allowed to offer facilities. Clients were really eager to get back to facilities, using facilities. At one stage, we couldn't offer food, so we weren't allowed to offer, and a few clients actually complained and said, well, I'm paying for the spa experience, but I'm not getting the spa experience. So these are kind of things that one had to kind of cater for, whether you gave your client an individual pack of things that she got the food experience, that it was individually wrapped, that she could take it back with her. So I think it's really just about pivoting your offering as you go along according to the different restraints.
Well, the point being, I'm sorry, Wilfried, do we want to go back to doing what we were doing, or should we go or add a direction? I think Wilfried will jump in on that.
Exactly. I just wanted to jump on what Debbie said. This is exactly what I see as our biggest problem at the moment. Looking at my clients in all over Europe is what they did is the following. They used the time, most of them, or some of them at least, used the time for expanding or enlarging their spa facilities. They are offering now more and bigger relaxation areas and more quiet spaces and so on, which is, I think, which is nice and good. It's a good decision because, as we know, space and silence is the new luxury of our times. And this is what people need and want. However, this is generating costs because you have to build it and you have to maintain it, but it's not generating any revenue.
Non-revenue producing space.
At the same time, and that's also quite interesting. And I went nuts on that when some clients asked me if they should reduce prices. They wanted to reanimate their business coming in as soon as we are open again. And I said, no, of course not. You cannot have higher costs on the one hand, and on the other hand, go down with prices or give any discounts. So if they do that, and some did or want to do, that means that they have higher costs, lower income, which makes it economically wise really well.
It's not a good equation.
not really good.
I mean, we already have slim margins, so.
And we do. And the second point I want to emphasize is, yes, most of them, of those spas and hotels who are waiting to reopen in Europe now, they enlarged their spa. They did not change any treatment in their spa menu. So they are still thinking about massages. 75% of treatments sold in a spa or booked in a spa are still massages, facial treatments, manicure, pedicure, peelings, blah, 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 blah. But if you look at our society, especially now, people are suffering from anxiety. They have a depression, light or severe. They are suffering from this tremendous insecurity, financially wise, but everything is so insecure. They experience this social distancing, which is for a human being a catastrophe. It's a nightmare. It's really not healthy at all. So with these problems and these illnesses, let's say, people are running around there outside on the street, and they want to come to our spa. And what are we offering them? We're offering them some oil on the back and do a massage. This is not enough. And it's not, for my opinion, this is not what they need. Of course, they book a spa treatment and they book a massage because this is currently on offer. This is what they see. But just imagine we would open a spa now which is offering purely mental treatments. No touch, completely touchless thing, but only focusing on mental and maybe on spiritual wellness. One of my clients in Austria is doing that. And this is the business. This is a tremendous demand.
Really? So for the non-touch treatments. To your point, MindBody Online did a survey in the late of last year, globally, 10,000 consumers, about their opinions on wellness. I'm going to put it in the chat so that you can access it if you'd like to, but there's a ton of interesting data there. And I think something like 73% of the consumers said that wellness was more important now than ever, and that they considered beauty and grooming part of wellness. So we know that people want what we do, but to Wilfried's point, where do we go now? Do we go back to massages and facials? Do we add low-touch treatments? Do we add virtual experiences? Do we bring in counselors to speak to the mental situation? Do we host forest walks for mental calmness? Do we do all of it? Is this an opportunity to use an overused word, pivot a bit and maybe change the shape of what we do beyond the obvious, as Debbie mentioned, changing your rent, shifts, pay structures? We have an advantage internally, but we also have an advantage externally because the consumer wants to come and they are more open to change now. They understand if the business has to do it differently. They're not so annoyed about that as they were pre-COVID. They understand, oh, things have changed. So what can we do to make us even stronger going into the next 5 years? That's what I think we need to be thinking about. And anybody watching have any opinions, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them. Do we go back to just spa treatments and menus as we had, or do we step forward? And Debbie, I'm interested in your view from Africa, how you see that working.
I think wellness has always been core to what we do, but maybe not such a focus when you say massage, facial services, etc. And if you look at the stats of how wellness is growing and just how people are engaged in wellness, for me, it's a huge opportunity to tap into just various forms of treatment offering, really focusing on wellness. And that means we've got to change how we're training the therapists, our focus on our packaging of our treatments, and really having an outcome, a desired outcome that actually proves that we are creating wellness results and what our intention is. I think people are open to that. People have seen now just how important it is to care for ourselves. And I think it really does open up for a lot of properties that didn't offer, for example, nutraceuticals, really focusing on immunity packages, sleep packages. Yeah, so I really believe we've got an opportunity, and we've spoken so long, and there are places that do embrace wellness, but to what level? What level of desired results? Have we tracked those results? It is a great marketing opportunity, and I believe something that we are positioned so well to do.
Mm-hmm.
I would even, if I may, I would even go a step further, Debbie. You said we have to train our staff differently. I think we all agree that wellness is far more than just physical well-being. So what we're having in a spas worldwide, by the way, is a therapist working on your body. We could think about, for the future, for the near future, I would say, we could think about hiring people who are not just physical therapists, but maybe, and why not, take a psychotherapist on board. There's no reason why we shouldn't do that. In the contrary, as I just said, people are running around with serious problems in their mind, and not only in their, it's not about back problems, it's about headache in terms of mental problems. And we could have psychotherapists, hypnotherapists, we could have all sorts of people in our spa offering services for more than just the bodies. We could have a priest in our spa. Why not? Because at the end of the day, I could offer everything. I could offer strawberries in my spa. People would buy it. So I could offer a spiritual, I don't know, class and do whatever if I have the price to giving this class. Mm-hmm. And then I can sell it. And people, I'm absolutely sure, people will buy it. So why not? And if a session costs 160, 180, 250 euros or dollars or whatsoever, as long as people are willing to pay that, I would be crazy not to sell it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've been known for being experts in, the physical care of bodies, and now we're moving into mental space where we are not experts. And of course, every state and country has guidelines on what you can and cannot do. However, we are definitely seeing a trend to the lines between what's considered medical and what's considered our space, wellness, are blurring. There was a last week's Global Wellness Institute webinar on this very topic of medicine and wellness kind of coming together, and facilities that are starting to do that. Europe has had them for years, medical spas, but we have not seen that as much in the rest of the world as we are starting to see. And to your point, Wilfried, why not? Why not bring in an expert to counsel people on their own and offer more, right? We need to look beyond what we're doing now, and how do we address the mental? Of course, giving a massage relaxes someone, but once they leave, what is the lasting effect of that? And how can we play in that space? How comfortable are we going down that road?
Well, talking about that, I often hear, well, I'm not, as you just said, I'm not a specialist in that, I'm not a specialist in this, this is not my profession, blah, 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 blah. I recently had a hotelier who told me, well, I'm not a place for sick people, and I'm not a psychotherapist, and I don't want to be. I said, you don't have to. But you are also not a housekeeper, and still you have housekeepers in your home, in your hotel. You are probably not a chef, and you have chef in your kitchen. So there is no reason, and again, wellness is far more than just physical well-being. So there is no reason why we should not get these specialists on board. And then, we have to pay them. And I'm sorry to say, a psychotherapist charges more than a massage therapist.
A little bit.
There is a reason for that.
I think if I can just add that quite a lot of properties are almost doing like ambassadors of various and having promotions or days whereby the clients, you can expose them to, you know, to these different modalities. But I also had quite a laugh. I was in a Uber the other night, and we were talking about lockdown, and the Uber driver said, you know how much weight I put on? And I just had a smile to myself, and I thought, can you imagine if they calculated across the world during lockdown how much weight everyone has put on? There's a huge opportunity because everyone wants to lose weight now after lockdown. They want to get back in shape. They want to, and they need the tools to do it. Some people are very self-disciplined, other people are not. So yeah, just had a smile about that because I thought the world actually hasn't calculated just how much weight we've all put on eating and being stuck down, locked down.
So much so. Other than my friend Trent Monday in KL, everyone else that I know has puffed up a bit for whatever reason. So you're right. There are opportunities here in fitness, you know, and mental wellness and all of these other areas that I think we need to focus on beyond, okay, let's get back to doing facials in a safe and sanitary way that we were already doing. The opportunity is definitely there to reinvent ourselves. But what direction does that mean? You know, and it may be different country by country and market by market. I suspect it will. I'd like to ask you, Wilfried and Debbie, what you think about the low touch treatment option. We've bandied that about in the US a bit. Obviously, when the shutdowns first happened, you know, we had nothing, most of us, to offer people that didn't involve a therapist. And I think it made many owners realize, maybe a little diversity in the revenue stream wouldn't be the worst idea to have, whether it's a sauna or a steam room or something like a light pod or an LED treatment or a virtual reality experience. All these fancy new pieces of equipment that rock you and play music for you. Do we think that that is something that will continue?
Personally, I do. I think it's nice to have, and it's an experience, and it's an addition to what we offer. But I go to hand touch. I believe personal touch is healing. I know it from myself if I have a treatment. So if I had a choice of having a hands-on treatment or going for a no-touch treatment, I'd take the hands-on treatment without a hesitation. So I don't believe it will ever take over. Personally, I think it adds to the experience, which is great, and people like to have experience beyond what they're having in terms of their treatments. But so a nice add-on, but I don't believe it will take over. No.
And Wilfried, what's your thought on the low touch? Go ahead.
100% agree.
You do? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so humans want to be touched in the spas. They don't want.
No, they don't want to be. Sorry, Lisa. They need to be. It's an essential need.
Okay. All right. Well, I see we have another window has popped up. Naim has joined us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry for his morning. Of course, I told everyone attending earlier that, you know, we planned the webinar and then suddenly you had to get on a plane and fly to another country. And I said to myself, this is good. It means we're in recovery. People are moving around. So Naim he's jumped off his plane, run to his hotel and gotten to his room. So Naim, let me tell you where we are in our discussion. We've been talking about spas in our various sectors, sort of rushing back to do business the way we used to, facials, massages, human touch, but are we missing opportunities to reinvent ourselves? I was, of course, interested in your feedback on how the Middle East market is going, because from everyone I'm talking to, it's going gangbusters. And you are in the unique position of also operating restaurants, hotels. So could you speak to us for a moment about what you're seeing in terms of consumer driving back to the business and their confidence in what we're doing?
Thank you, Lisa. No, first and foremost, apologies for being so late. But again, it is an absolute pleasure to be back flying on business, that is. I think, as you rightly say, it's sending all the right messages out to the world that it is safe. We have to be vigilant. We have to be extra cautious. Nonetheless, it is safe to be back in the air, traveling, and really living life as we know it best. Going back to the questions that you posed, and I think, look, people are longing to re-engage in life as we know it, be it dining, be it treatments, be it therapy, be it mixing and mingling, simple things. We've been extremely fortunate in the Middle East. I think particularly in the UAE, Dubai has made some amazing decisions early in the piece to tighten up the arrivals, departures, and really control the influx of the country. This is going back 8 months ago. In December, again, we've reopened the country. Dubai officially said we're open, welcome back, in a very precise and measured approach. Be it the PCR tests, be it the quarantining, so forth, everything was well calculated. And today, we're delighted to be in an amazing situation where people are looking at the globe and saying, okay, where can I go for a holiday? I mean, the UAE, Dubai has always been an amazing destination, but today it's a safe destination. It's a destination that caters for tourist makers, businessmen, families, shoppers, beach lovers, and so forth. So the market did bounce back. Nonetheless, I think we should be reminding ourselves that we had to reinvent ourselves across the last 12, 14 months in order to be where we are today. So the blinkers had to come off, and we had to approach life in a different fashion. And really what has happened, Lisa, I think in my humble opinion, a lot of the experiences, a lot of the changes have simply been accelerated. We've always been going down that road, but a lot of it has been accelerated for the better. Now, humans, typically, we don't like change. So a rapid change, we all badly reacted. We all stood back and said, hang on a second, what's going on? I need my treatment. I need my therapist to be doing A, B, C, D. And the change was very rapid. So I think it's taking people time. People need to be assured. People need to be made aware that the steps that are being taken are safe and healthy and well practiced for them to re-engage in our business and feel rather comfortable.
Have you seen that your clients have been not hesitant to return? Are your restaurants and spas as busy as we hear that they are?
I think we should be, again, speaking freely here. Yes, we are extremely busy. Nonetheless, there's a lot of limitations. The 50% capacity in venues still applies. Distancing still applies, the 3 meters still applies. So whilst you're running full house, you're not full capacity. Capacity is based on 50%. So today, if you call for a treatment, you're probably told that you have to wait 2-3 hours because of the distancing, because of the capacity that's been imposed. Nonetheless, I think it's a clever move. Whilst I'm calling it short-term pain, I think it's long-term gain. Because I think together we need to come out of this. Not one person can control it. So slowly but surely we can come out of it. So yes, business is booming in a fashion that's unexpected for such a quick recovery. Nonetheless, we still have a long journey ahead of us. We need to first and foremost gain everyone's confidence. And give them that peace of mind that we're in a space where it's hygienic, it's safe, well planned, well thought out, and our people are frontline teams as well on all fronts.
Have you introduced, Naim, in any of your properties anything sort of new or different than you had? I'm thinking, side note, I just finished a story for Spa Business on IV nutrition therapy, and I spoke to Mandarin in Dubai, and they are partnered with a clinic that offers these. And so they're not doing it and they're not having nurses, but if a client says, I'd like an immunity boosting IV, they call up the clinic, they run over with an IV bag and they administer it at the hotel. Are there other opportunities for us to expand revenue that you're seeing like that in partnerships or going outside our traditional services?
Again, Lisa, I think, as I mentioned earlier, all of these services have been accelerated. So now people are opting to pick up the phone and call for a service, go online and inquire about a service. So from a brand extension, my biggest advice to everybody is, whilst the people are still timid and shy and uncertain, whilst there is anxiety still floating in the air, let's provide solutions for them to engage in a different way. Let brand extensions go online and provide solutions, be it over a webinar, be it over a call, be it over a one-on-one discussion in a confined space, yet distanced. So yes, we have had to think differently in order to make sure that the brands continue reaching out to the audience, because the easiest thing would have been to shut shop and sit and wait and lose every connectivity with your audience base. And this is any business. But we've opted to go the other way, saying let's go extremely vocal online. Let's get our brands on the forefront of people's minds. And a lot of it wasn't about generating revenue. This was about connecting with the audience. This was about making sure the brands stayed at the forefront. The brands stayed active, engaging. And what we have witnessed since the market came back, these brands that stayed active came back a lot stronger, because people actually appreciate it. And all of a sudden you became part of the community. You became a service provider that people actually say, we can rely on you. You're not simply there to make money. You're part of the community. And for us, that was a great win.
Well, thank goodness for social media and the internet, right? Because what would we have done? I mean, and to your point, Naim, we've seen that brands have stayed in touch, in contact through those methods and been really creative. I love what Six Senses did with their sort of FaceTime activities, group meditations. Lots of the brands got involved and had activities. Some people were sending out kits of beauty and they're doing facials all together on Zoom. Whatever we could do, a lot of creativity happened in this last year in this space. And I'm wondering how we keep that flame going, right? How do we stay creative now that we've been tested? Anybody?
If I may just step in, and I think what really we should be looking at now is making sure that we create a balance. I think anybody that you speak to across all of the hospitality disciplines that we have, everyone's eager to re-engage. I think people have tried the IT solutions. They've opted to accept them whilst there was certain limitations. But now people, I feel they're eager. And if you take the Maldives, for example, if you take Dubai, if you take the Seychelles, you can't get a room in hotels. Simply because these markets are open. And it tells you that the market is anxious and willing to travel if you provide them solutions that are calculated, well thought out and planned, and give people reasons to travel. So it's about balance. I think we should not say we are doing 50%, 50%. I think we should be moving back towards where we had started, but keeping that online activations alive, and every now and then fueling it extra to make sure that we don't lose out on that chapter that we started.
Right. One of our, Linnell from Chicago, says she agrees. I mean, when you began to be vocal online, you sort of have to maintain that because, and there's so many places. This is the challenge, right? You're on Instagram, you're on WhatsApp, you're on WeChat, you're on Facebook Live, you're everywhere. And now we need social media managers, but so be it, right? Because maybe we're spending less money on front desk staff because these electronic channels are taking some of that. Wilfried or Debbie? Yeah, go ahead, Debbie.
If I can just comment there, that it really taught us over lockdown to stay in touch with our customers, but to really, so for example, we did a campaign where we took our top 200 customers and we sent them gifts and we said, we miss you, can't wait to see you. And that was just kind of giving back, reinforcing the loyalty, but being so in touch with our top customers and communicating with our customers, picking up the phone, speaking to them, which really in the past, you just waited for business to come through the door. I think we were a little blasé. It's forced us to say, who is my customer, especially when we now don't have the hospitality section of customers. So our customer base that supports us regularly, to be more in touch with them, give back to them, and in turn they give back to you. So I suppose it's the principle, as much as you give back, you'll get back in return. So it's nurturing, and we've noticed with our therapists online, picking up the phone, booking, following up on the clients and their treatments, we've definitely added to our occupancies in our properties and the bookings.
Well, you're right. Many of us were very sort of transactional before. Like you said, we just took appointments and waited for them to show up. And now we've had to be much more engaged And I think it's a good thing that we will need to maintain. Wilfried?
I've seen many of my clients becoming very emotional via social media. And at the same time, and that was really interesting and funny to see, the clients became also very emotional and sending loves and hugs and saying, I hope that you will survive and we will come back as soon as you're open. Please, please be safe. And I was reading that on my social media timeline and said, I have never seen such an emotional connection between businesses and their clients, especially in our business. I think this is really particular. And your question, if we, or what we have to do to keep this creativity and this emotional connection thing, that's a little bit something I fear actually, that we won't be able to maintain that. You know, people are now able to sit in front of their computer and feed all these social media channels. But these are the people who are normally in the business doing massages or being a manager or whatsoever. So as soon as we are back to business, these people will hopefully be back generating revenue. So either we are able to hire a social media manager if we haven't done so before, or we will have to invest actually into people to find somebody who is, who keeps going.
Good point. Yeah, there is investment required, and we're going to have to think carefully about how we communicate going forward, and what the message is, right? And it's not just come in and have a facial. It's, you know, broader than that. How to lead healthy lives. That's what we teach people how to do, and now we have their attention. We need to make use of it. So we have a few minutes left before we go. I want to thank our sponsor, Book4Time, which is a global platform for managing spas and hospitality properties, has kindly stepped in to sponsor this session. So we thank them for that. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with and use their software. So in closing, we have a few minutes left. Let's just each make a statement about what's ahead. You know, what's beyond getting back to business as it was? Where are we going, and what should we be preparing for?
Ladies first.
Debbie.
Okay, great. Well, my focus for this year really was each and every property that we have. I wanted them to be able to stand on their own and cover their expenses, get all the staff back, get them earning their normal salaries. And that for me was my main focus. I haven't looked at this year about making money, you know, return on my investment. So when we did our strategy session, we set very, very realistic budgets. And it really is about each and every property standing on their own, not making a loss. And I'm really pleased to say up until now, each month we've been exceeding those targets and those budgets. So that's been my focus for this year, is just rebuilding that foundation again, and getting back to normality in that respect. And then going forward, obviously one needs to strategize what the world needs, what we need to do in terms, what our clients are wanting, and then to be abreast. But I'm not taking this year to do this. I don't believe it's time to start bringing new ventures, new lines. We didn't even increase our prices. We kept our prices the same. We knew there would be a price resistance with people earning less. So with what we were offering before, we just want to get back to being profitable and covering our expenses. And then going forward, we will reinvent and carry on and build and open new properties. And I'm positive. I think there's a great future ahead of us.
Profitability is certainly a good thing.
Yeah.
Wilfried?
Yeah, I agree with Debbie. I think staffing should be on the forefront of every thought in the moment. As I said before, it has been a problem pre-COVID. It will be an even bigger problem past-COVID or post-COVID. And again, my point, it is not only about the staff we have and we have to get back or retain in our spas. It's also about thinking about new people, about new services, about specialists in whatever area we could imagine is now kind of helpful for our clients. And that means that we have to find probably new strategies and then adapt our staffing strategies to that. And that's a challenge. I know it's a challenge, but I think it's definitely worth it because it brings our business to another, let's say, to the next level.
Naeem, you get to have the last word.
Thank you. I concur with my colleagues, and I think I've broken it into 4 little silos. One is the educational aspect. I think we have a massive task ahead of us to re-engage and make sure all of our teams are extremely refreshed and brought up to speed. A lot of them have been off for a long period of time. On the educational front, I think we also have the onus on ourselves to make sure that marketers are also educated to see what to expect and give them that relief that we're back into business in a safe manner. So education, the engagement is my second one. Engagement is fairly large for me as well because these platforms, social media platforms, aren't going anywhere. And again, we need to be able to absorb them. We need to make sure that these platforms align with the services that we offer in our venues. So there is synergies because a lot of times you see something online and then you have the experience and there's a massive gap. So there is alignment and internal communication. The third one is obviously the commercial aspect. We need to be commercially savvy to make sure that everybody that leaves our spas and our wellness centers leaves with a bag of goodies and hopefully an appointment for them to return to make sure that the cycle of return business comes back. And last but not least, I'm calling it EI. I think the entire globe is talking about AI, artificial intelligence. I'm talking about emotional intelligence. And this is what we have done internally. We have actually recruited a lady from British Airways whose job is to do nothing but train on AI because I want my people to have the confidence in communicating with our guests. And our guests vary. You know, you have your high net worth, you have your average punters, with all due respect. So we need to be able to step up to the plate and engage with them at any level without having that subservient approach, without having that service element. We need to be on par where we are executing a service, and that service is a professional service and a medical service to a certain extent that when you leave our business, you're feeling better. So I want to have that confidence embedded in our teams to make sure that they feel they are empowered to execute a service that is superior and extremely well trained on. So these are my 4 pillars, basically. And I think moving forward, it's positive. Our business, I think, will escalate fast because people today understand how important it is to look after oneself. And that's the message that we should be selling: is let's look after each other. Let's look after oneself, and take.
Excellent summation, Naeem. Again, thank you for jumping in there and rushing off your plane to get on here and share your wisdom with us. We appreciate it. There is a lot to look forward to, and we wanted to sort of have that hopefulness and going forward, what will change, what will evolve, what can we do? We know that the virtual communication realm is not going away. And if you were not on social, you need to be there, obviously, and you need to stay there. We need to communicate in new ways, but keep that core. What I'm hearing, we touch people, and we need to continue to do that and do that in the best way that we can. So thank you again, everyone who joined us. I hope this was an enlightening discussion and we can feel so good about what's coming. The summer, the reopenings, and returning to some form of revenue coming in the door for all of us. Thank you again to my esteemed panelists for joining us, and to all of you who listened, and we look forward to seeing you at the next We Work Well event. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.